What's up, everybody? It's HorrorDeconstruction. You can find us at HorrorDeconstruction.tumblr.com, YouTube.com/HorrorDeconstruction, as well as Facebook.com/The HorrorDeconstruction with the host Comp.
Baby, how was I supposed to know?
As well as
Harahaba.
from Harahaba.tumblr.com. Today's film is
Gerald's Game 2017.
Gerald's Game 2017. While trying to spice up their marriage in the remote lake house, Jessie must fight to survive when her husband dies unexpectedly, leaving her handcuffed to the bed frame.
They just ruined the whole plot of the movie.
Directed by...
It's the first 10 minutes.
Listen, don't you ruin it too.
Directed by Mike Flanagan.
I haven't seen it.
Fucks, would you shut up? Written by Mike Flanagan, who did the screenplay, as well as Jeff Howard, based on the novella by Stephen King, who's having a resurgence this year after the fantastic Dark Tower. Oh boy.
Oh god.
Starring Carla Gugino. It's actually Gugino, but whatever. Goo. Okay, Carol Strikian and Bruce. Carol, who the fuck? Carol.
He is
Strikian?
Lurch, and he's also the giant in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that in the episode, so you ruined it.
He is.
There's also Bruce Greenwood. Yeah, Greenwood, baby.
Gerald.
Yeah, Bruce Canadian.
He is one handsome
Is
gentleman.
he? I don't know if you want to be proud of that
is.
one.
And also, it has the guy from E.T. in it, Henry Thomas. That's Tom. So,
Okay.
everybody, Thea, why did you? Oh no, you didn't pick this one.
I chose
I
this
didn't
one.
pick this
Here's a joke about this one. See, this whole month it's Thea's time of the month, but Thea, for some reason, to spite me, gave Danny two choices of films to pick, and we always goof on Thea every
the
year
reason
because
why?
she. God damn it, I'm talking. So I always goof on Thea because she always picks a film that has rape in it, right? And then she didn't pick two films. Like she picked Coherence, and I thought it was a movie called, what was the other movie?
I don't remember.
Whatever. This other movie.
It was something Sister
similar
Fantasy.
name, and it had a girl getting raped in it. I was like, oh, Thea did it once again. But then when I found out it was Coherence, I was like, oh, she broke it. She broke
That's
her
right.
rule.
She broke
and then
the
guess
curse.
what? And then Danny picked a movie that had rape in it of kids, of a young girl. So I was like, oh, Danny did it for her. So good for him.
I didn't even actually think about that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I know.
Says he.
And that's all I could think about as I was watching it. I was like, oh god, they're gonna rag on me so hard.
I'm sorry. I
can't.
actually didn't even consider that.
That's okay. That's okay.
As Danny rubbed the front of his pants watching this movie. So, Danny, why'd you pick this
I can't
movie?
help
Why'd you pick the Gerald's Game?
Because it's new, and I've
Yeah.
heard good things about it, and I know it's supposed to be a good book. So yeah.
So it's based on a
Bingo
Stephen King novella that I heard a long time ago. I actually had the ending ruined for me a long time before, and watching
really?
He loves
watching
doing
the
that,
film.
ruining the ends of things.
Thea, why don't you give us a little rundown of what this movie is about, even though it was completely spoiled in the opening IMDb explanation.
That synopsis was pretty accurate. I mean, it's a woman that gets handcuffed to her bed because her and her husband are trying to rekindle their marriage of 11 years. He gets a little rough. She doesn't like it and asks him to stop. And because he's... I don't know if it's because he's taken the Viagra, but whatever. He has a heart attack because he freaks out. And then he dies, and she is left to her own devices.
Yeah, she's tied. She's actually handcuffed with both arms, sort of.
Bedposts.
Would you call her the arms being spread eagle? I guess so, right? Usually spread eagle means the legs.
Jesus spread.
All right.
Delicious.
She's crucifixed.
So
Yeah, crucified.
she's been handcuffed to these reinforced bedposts. Above her is a bookcase, sort of. What is that thing that's
It's like a
above her?
shelf.
A bookshelf with books and a cup of water for Bruce Greenwood to put his cup or his Viagra waters in, which gives him boner powers, but also gives him a heart attack.
That was a nice moment.
They actually try to give Kobe beef to this ungrateful fucking dog that's outside. And that's what happens. When you give a dog delicious meat, they're expecting some more. Those rat dog bastards.
They want to eat you. That's
Yes.
what happens.
Just like
I
any
mean, you
person.
can't really blame the dog.
No, you can't blame the dog.
So,
I'm not mad at the dog.
what is this film about, Thea? Like, what works with this film? What is this film really about?
So I think it's really about like she's physically restrained, but it's most of the movie centers around her sort of emotional restraint of suppressing this memory from her youth, which was her father assaulting her. And then she married a man who basically was similar, even though she didn't realize until later.
I think
and it's about her It's about her surviving that as much as it is surviving the actual physical pain of being restrained and trying to break free, basically.
I think
and confronting those things.
I think the difference between her father and her husband is that they were similar in a way that they were sort of emotionally manipulative, but I think it's that her husband was more distant emotionally as opposed to her dad, who was a little too close.
Yes.
Her dad was so creepy.
He's very...
Well, and her dad was clearly probably also like a pedophile, obviously, but like her husband didn't seem to be a pedophile. He was just sort of... He liked having power and liked having that over her because she seemed very much like a sort of reserved, sort of low-key, ignores problems and keeps them at a distance kind of person. He liked that, but he also liked to be more aggressive in bed, and she did not like that.
I will say this. Henry Thomas gave probably one of the creepiest, if not the creepiest character I've ever seen in a film as her pedophile Jack and
and they shot it so close quarters too, which really added to it.
Okay, yeah, and it was really like I was looking at it, and the way that they sort of have that small scene where he's telling her that she should confess, but how horrible her life will become, and I was like, damn, that is some good writing, because that was like
she
might not, like, your mom might not hate you if we tell her, but she might.
It was probably was the best rap bastard I've ever seen on film. Like really, like that was the best interpretation of just
pure manipulation,
pure evil of a person I've ever seen on film. More than anything,
that like as a child you don't understand,
right?
But like as an adult looking back at it, you obviously have that context.
That's the thing with sort of Stephen King villains. Stephen King does really good villains. He may not know how really to end his books, even though I will say It had a fantastic ending. The novel myself, I thought it was a great ending. You can see the difference between this character Tom in this film as opposed to Pennywise, who's sort of this. You can't really pinpoint what he is, so he's sort of this general evil. While Tom in this film is a very realistic evil. Because I listen to this podcast called Loveline Classic. It's basically the show by Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla from the 90s, and they would, they'd say it's a comedy show, but they were actually helping kids that had a lot of, problems with their sexual
I used to love that
like
show.
that. And I had just heard a recent episode where, not a recent episode, an episode from like 98, where this girl who was 12 years old, sorry to bog down the show, but she was 12 years old, pregnant by a 27-year-old man who worked for her stepfather, who was a lawyer that raped her when she was 6 years old. And the doctors were like scrambling to, talk to her offline to sort of get this shit, in check, because people like this Tom character actually exist in real life, because
I know.
Everything is completely cyclical, so if anybody's ever listening to the show and actually has gone through that, we were trying to make you laugh, but go fucking get that shit checked out for real, because people like that tend to not have bad things happen to them, and every horrible thing should happen to those type of people.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Well, and if you don't deal with those things, you're going to be suffering from that trauma your whole life in ways that you don't understand.
Yeah. And you become...
Until you actually go back and sort of confront and contextualize those
Hopefully
things
it won't be like this movie.
Realize
and for some reason you become a magnet for it, even if you don't do it
I think
on purpose.
This movie, like, I know we're joking about like how it has rape and we always pick rape movies. But
I wasn't joking. You were
this
joking.
one, I feel like it approached it from a victim's perspective.
Right.
Instead of just like slasher.
Yeah, no, this movie's fucking brilliant.
Because what I love is they externalize her inner dialogue. That's the best part of it, I think.
It is very much a psychological horror that is dealing with very real traumatic events that people go through. So I think it's a very important film for like from the outset. You're like, oh, it's a woman who's tied up to a bed, and we have to see her sort of deal with trying to find a way out. But it's much deeper than what it.
It's so much deeper.
I really had no idea what it was going to be. I was like, what's it going to be? Just some girl like starving to death for like
trying to get out of handcuffs.
Because there are plenty of films that deal with actual, rape and stuff like molestation and stuff like that, and it almost seems like it is a heavy thing that is dealt with film, but for some reason, this is probably the most effective one that I've seen in a long time that's used in a genre Do you know what I mean? Like, there's obviously
Right.
dramas
Yeah,
that
yeah.
do it really well, and they not that you're supposed to use it for entertainment, but for the fact that this is a real fucking terror. And for this movie, the way it's done, especially that sort of eerie effect when when they're sitting at the beach on that little bench, and you see that what was it, the eclipse going on.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it just gives it this otherworldly sort of dark. It is supposed to be, her jumping into this nightmarish version of her childhood, but it's just done so well and so beautiful for such a horrific event that I thought that they really did something with this, and this director Flanagan really did something good with this movie. Especially, it's basically a one-woman show in this film, even though there's like 2 or 3 other separate characters. With Carla Gugino.
Well, it's almost. I think it's closer to a two-hander just because of how much her husband, even post dying, figures into it. But yeah, it is basically just her. But you forget that because they've externalized all of her inner dialogue as herself and her husband and basically all those conversations. So it's almost like a 3-way conversation constantly.
Right.
And
which is kind of beautiful.
much props to Carla Gugino, because she's an actress that is really overlooked, because well, the thing is that she's
fantastic.
I recognize her.
a-
I'm not sure where she's from, though.
Sin City. She's a very beautiful woman, and the thing is that
She's also in Watchmen briefly.
right, yeah, she was the original. I forget the name of her character. Her daughter, the one who played Malin Ackerman, played her daughter in the current version,
Right.
and she was the mother. But Silk Spectre, I think her character's name was. I'm not sure.
Yes.
But
yes.
Carla
Okay.
Gugino is the problem. I think is that Carla Gugino is actually a very beautiful woman, and this is not to take away from her. And I think people probably don't take her that seriously. They sort of, they'll give her sort of eye candy roles, but she's actually a pretty competent
Right.
actor, and she
She's
shows
a-
it off
she's
in
a
this
great
film.
actress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she does very well in this film, as in holding the film for herself. And I think it's really well, especially of a woman of her age, but she doesn't look like she's aged that much. Do you know what I mean? But
she looks incredible.
usually movies they're like, oh, it's Meryl Streep, or for older actresses, there's not really that much of a
There's like 3 options.
there's
Yeah.
shelf lives, and she just really knocks it out of the park in this film. I think she really fucking holds her game here, especially when she's playing the one who's terrified on the bed. She's playing the more confident one standing next to her, opposite of Bruce Greenwood, who's essentially telling her to give in. So it's obviously the
Right.
devil and angel over the shoulder. So Thea, what are things that worked for you with this film that you wouldn't typically see in other sort of psychological horror films?
Well, and I think I did get spoiled for the ending a little bit. Like, I think I knew that the man in the corner was real.
Yeah, I knew
Oh,
that
really?
too.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I think I had that vague memory of reading something or seeing something before that I knew that was going to happen.
That to me, that was probably the only weakest thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, which was hard because, like, I think I would have. Because I mean, Danny, you didn't know.
I had no
going in,
idea,
So,
yeah.
so how did you feel about that part?
I mean,
Like, did you think that was
as
like
death,
worked?
I thought it was cool. Once I found out it wasn't death and it was a real guy,
Was a
I
real
like,
man?
Yeah, it seems kind of like tagged on a little bit,
Yeah, that seems like,
Fair enough.
you know what that sounds like? Hey, the couple that's making out of the car, they heard scratching noises in the back. Hey, it was a hook in the back of the car. It was real. He was real. It's that sort of thing.
Well,
You're
and I
like,
think that's the kind of thing. I think that's the kind of thing. Like, that twist, I feel like probably was scarier in the book because it was probably articulating her sort of feeling like hallucinatory.
Yeah.
Because she was so out of it, and so she just assumed that was not real.
Yeah, and they try to explain. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, just that like she assumed that she was seeing something rather than it being a real person.
Well,
And
I
they
mean,
try to-
I don't know. It wasn't really necessary for it to be real, but it was cool, I guess,
I liked it though. I still liked that ending.
Yeah, I figured it
Like,
was
sort of her overcoming that final thing.
Yeah, she needed to confront somebody at the end since she couldn't confront anybody else. But
Yeah.
also, at the very beginning, you hear about the guy in the radio, so it's obviously something's going to happen later
Which I
on.
forgot.
Yeah,
I forgot that immediately.
I knew
so-
because I knew he was a real guy. I kind of was like, okay, so this guy's gonna
Right.
come in later. But the way
I
that
tuned in.
he looked in the fucking film, he looked like a ghost. He looked like somebody out of Darkstalkers or some shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
And but
I think the look of him was perfect.
Yeah,
I
he's
think
great.
That was great.
yeah, I wasn't really affected by when he was sucking on her toes. I was like, what the hell is this? It looks sort of
Well,
goofy.
that happened so quickly. I saw a lot of people like GIF that
Right.
before I saw it.
And people
so
saying, "This is frightening."
I
And I
thought it
was
was
like,
going to be, but it was so fast you barely see it. What affected me more was when he was standing with like eclipse eyes in her room,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was good stuff. Like,
or in the back of her car.
When I first-
in her like hallucination.
when he was standing in the shadows and I couldn't make out what the fuck I was looking at, that I thought it was really
That
well
was
done.
scary.
The one where he was just like sucking on her feet, I thought that was sort of a cheap jump scare, but the rest of his stuff was pretty
Yeah.
solid. But they also sort of explained why he wasn't, sexually assaulting her. Well, they never really
only
placed it
liked
like he was
dead
sexually
men.
assaulting her, just like sucking on her. Yeah, right. He was
Right.
a homosexual
or
necrophile
eventually
or whatever.
living men, but men specifically.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and then he would have his box of bones of people's pieces and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just a slight weak part, was that he was real. But I mean, I guess they needed to have her confront somebody thing, which is fine. Were there things that didn't work for you in the movie?
Who, me?
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
I wish they. I would like the. No, I was gonna make a joke, but I'll save the joke.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, just that. It was kind of like unnecessary, but other than that, I mean, oh my god, the fuck! It has one of the most brutal scenes I've ever seen in
Yeah.
any movie.
Yeah.
Here's the
That
thing.
was
with
like, I was like, oh my god, like I had to like pause it. It was bad.
Heather watched this movie with me.
Yeah.
Oops.
And so they give you a sort of heads up when she's about to, stab her wrist and break free.
Yeah.
So you know it's coming.
I didn't
so
know it was
she
gonna
left
be
the room.
that
She
bad,
went.
though.
She went to.
Oh
Did she? Yeah.
Well, no, neither did I. She went to the bathroom, and which is like next to where I'm sitting on the couch watching the movie.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like, I kept looking and looking away and looking and looking away and expecting it to be over or to be not that bad.
Uh-huh.
But it just kept getting more and more graphic.
Oh,
Like,
when it
the
starts coming off like
skin
a
coming
glove, and it was like, oh my god! Like I forced myself to watch it. I didn't look away, but it was like, this is. I felt shaky after watching it. Like I felt like faint.
I know.
So I know that this
Oh,
movie had a
God.
degloving in it because I was watching a talk that on YouTube. There's plenty of Stephen King having talking to crowds of
Right.
people, and he said the degloving scene, and everybody's like clapping, and I was like degloving. And then I was like, oh, that must mean you take your fucking. And then I've also heard about.
God.
I've also heard about people.
I was not prepared.
I've heard also through Loveline the show that there's degloving when people's penises, the skin is degloved
Don't
from their
even
penis.
go there.
I won't.
Don't
I'm just telling
even.
you. So watching this film, I was watching it while I would exercise because I have one of those sort of gazelle things where you could run on it.
Nice.
I'm watching. I know that scene's coming up because she makes that water come into her hand. And here's the thing:
Breaks the glass.
I'm an enormous pussy when it comes to realistic gore. And I've said this on plenty of
also-
episodes, but
It's stupid, but specifically, I don't like stuff with hands.
fair enough.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
I can't stand
like
stuff
it.
with arteries or veins and flesh
Yeah.
because I had told Danny before there are two films where I got physically ill watching in theaters. There was a movie
Yeah.
called it was a French film, and I think it's called the Inside of Me or The Me Inside. It's about this woman who is at a party and she walks and her foot, she steps on barefoot. She steps on a rusty nail, and then she starts peeling pieces of her flesh off and eating it. And I was watching.
Oh my God.
I just saw the part. It's a French. Maybe we'll see it one day. But
Yeah, we
I
should
was in the
watch
theater.
that.
I was in the theater. And she steps
Oh my
on. She
God.
steps on. This is what I knew what the movie was. I was watching the movie and I knew that was gonna happen in the film because it was a self cannibalism. That's why I'm gonna have fucking fun with Raw. Thanks, Danny. But she steps
Alright.
on it. I started getting woozy and dizzy in the theater. I left the theater. I went home.
Oh, no.
I saw a film called. I saw a film about a zombie baby called Grace. And I had gone.
Oh, I've seen that
I
one.
got fine throughout the whole film. At the scene at the end.
Until the very end, right?
The very end when she
Wait,
knocks
I
this
haven't
guy's
seen the movie, so don't
or whatever.
say.
She knocks. It's a zombie baby movie. What's gonna happen? They're gonna tap dance Danny. This is what happens in the movie. So there's a scene where she takes her breast pump and puts it inside this guy's artery and starts sucking blood out of it. I almost fainted out.
feed the baby.
I left the theater and almost fainted. I
Things
almost
with
blacked
eyes
out.
really bother me.
So,
Yeah.
hey Danny, remember when we saw that guy at the movie theater and his eyes were
Just
popping
shut
out because he had
up.
Graves' disease? And Danny,
Shut
literally-
up.
we saw this guy, and it's not funny for the guy. It was just funny for Danny.
It
this
wasn't
guy had
funny at all.
this
It's
guy had some
horrible.
sort of thyroid issue where his eyeballs were bulging out of his head
Oh, no.
because he had glasses on. And I said, "Hey, Danny, look," because I knew Danny gets sick. And then Danny had to run away. It was very funny.
I felt
Not 'cause
so
of the guy.
bad. It's like, this sucks for this guy.
Yeah, you
but
felt
I
bad for
couldn't-
yourself, you lying sack of
It
shit.
was
Yeah.
terrifying.
But with this film, I saw her break the glass, and I, like a giant pussy, I fast-forwarded 3 seconds. And I still saw when
really?
she... I still
3
saw
seconds wasn't enough, because it went on for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was long.
Well, maybe
it was
watched
long.
that shit.
Maybe my mind
I
erased
watched all of it.
When you remember when I texted you guys, "Oh, good movies." Remember?
Yes.
And then like maybe like a minute later
Is
that started happening, and I'm texting Alex "Oh my god, what the fuck?"
Because the part that I got onto after I had fast forwarded, she was pulling her hand through, and the flap of her skin was budging over it, and I was like, "God damn it!"
That's
like
the
I
worst
thought
part.
Antichrist had the worst thing I had ever seen, but this is actually worse.
Yeah, that was pretty bad with Antichrist, but I still didn't. Yeah, the clitoris cutting off was pretty much the heinous.
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Film.
I knew that happened.
I had no idea. When I saw it, I was in shock.
But it's funny because, like, Danny, we've seen, like, Story of Ricky, but I think it's because that's so cartoonish.
But that's
like,
cartoon,
Thea, did you ever see...
Yeah, it's
so
different.
realistic.
This was very... especially because everything leading up to that point was very, like... Although, I think you have a moment of it, like, Heather flinched, and I did a bit too, when the dog takes the first, like, bite of his arm.
Yeah.
And really snaps it off, and it's very, like, elasticy and shit.
Yeah.
So you get a taste, but it does not prepare you.
No pun intended.
It truly is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Do you think that she later goes on to adopt that dog, and then she stands with the dog and tells her story?
No, they had to.
That would be very profound.
They euthanized that dog. There's no question they euthanized that dog.
Oh.
Whenever
imagine
dogs,
she
got the taste
gets
of
it,
human
and you
now.
see her like petting the dog, and like there's like it's like the twist is that Gerald is possessed inside the dog, and she's like, "Good dog, Gerald," and then the credits roll.
No, the only way that ending would work is if she does that, and then she looks and smiles at the camera, then you hear "Shout at the devil," and then it just like you hear bad metal.
Or no,
that's like the worst
she
ending
smiles
ever.
at the camera, and then the last shot is her rushing at the camera really fast.
Oh no!
Maybe it's like Paranormal Activity.
Maybe it's like Prisoner of
Never
Azkaban, where it freezes mid-frame of her running with lines around her. It's the worst ending shot in any movie. You got to see it to believe it. Anyway,
I haven't seen it, and I like the book way better.
So we really don't have a bad thing to say by just nitpicking, but I think it really works. Also, Chiara Aurelia as the young Jessie was good as
is amazing.
She reminded me of
really
the girl from what's that show, Modern Family?
Her mom in the flashback is actually the main lady in Hush, I believe.
Is she?
I looked it up.
Yes, and the same director.
Oh, is it? Okay, good for them. Oh, yeah, that's
she's
his
only
wife.
in it for 2 seconds.
Well, I just which I didn't know before. I just looked it up.
That's his wife, right?
While we were doing this,
yeah.
The same director directed Ouija, Origin of
I heard
Evil,
that
which
one's
is, I think,
good.
the sequel.
Actually, I heard that movie.
I heard that one's good too. Actually, yeah.
Really?
The second one,
Ouija,
not the first one.
I know the first one I heard is garbage,
That's
but
just
I
what
heard
I've
Ouija
heard.
2 is actually a decent movie.
Better.
But maybe people had such low expectations because the first one was so bad.
And he also directed Hush, and he also directed Oculus.
Oh,
Oculus
shit. Well,
is cool.
Yeah, I like but Oculus. Danny has a boner for what's her name? The
Karen
side.
Gillan. Yeah, she's
Karen
I
Gillan.
don't like her.
You should have seen how disgusting Danny is, because I told Danny that there was a story of her naked walking around a hotel drunk, and Danny was like, "Where's that
refused
hotel?"
to watch it. I said, "No way, I will not."
There is no
slander her."
video of it. What are you talking about? He automatically thought there was a video. Although I did send him a clip of her walking around naked in some movie, and he was like, "This is great. This is great."
it.
He's such a lying sack.
Well, it's in a movie.
Whatever he
I
said
would
is
never look at her naked without her permission.
Danny, you're so full of shit. It's coming out of your ears. I can smell it from my microphone.
I respect women.
Okay.
He's
Yeah,
in
I
love
didn't.
with
I
her.
didn't watch it either. Anyway, so Kate Siegel was the mother, right? It's so funny. She looks so different because I swear to you, you saw Hush, Thea? Did you see it?
I haven't seen
That
Hush.
movie is like she's, I guess, Mike Flanagan's wife in real life, and I think that she, throughout the course of that film, her face morphs into Angelina Jolie, and I couldn't understand how that was happening. Her face looked like a young Angelina Jolie by the end of the movie, and I was like, "What's going on with this movie?"
I can see
He
it.
was
I can
giving
see
her
it.
lip injections throughout the filming.
She's the same lips for.
Any final words on this, Thea? Even though Danny picked this movie.
No, I think I've covered my bases. Danny,
What bases? Which numbers?
which
Did
numbers?
you do the home run base?
Is it some sort of
Everyone.
weird
Okay.
sexual thing going on?
I wasn't gonna do a Meatloaf song.
Sleep on it. I mean, let me sleep on it.
This film was a
Classic.
lot more than I was expecting. I did not expect it to be so like commentary on like, you know, like actual deep
On
commentary,
rape
like
and assault.
on women
Victims
and victims and rape and all this kind of stuff.
It was so weird because-
I was very happy. It was cool.
The timing's good.
I was listening
timing
to
is
an
good.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I was listening to an interview with the director of the original. What was that movie, Danny? That your Stephen King movie that you like so much with the. Oh, I don't know if you liked that actually. The book that you
What?
liked, the Stand.
Is it Dolores
Oh, I
Claiborne?
love The Stand.
No,
yeah.
no, the Stand. The director
Oh,
of
The
the
Stand.
TV film. If one of you guys can look it
The
up real
TV
quick.
film is kind of like whatever, but the
Yeah,
book
it's
is great.
Yeah, who's the director of that? Can you guys go through IMDb? But that director was saying it was his wish list to do this film like really badly, but then he liked how this came out, and I was like, yes, good, because he probably would have. Mick Garris wanted to do it because he did a lot of Stephen King
Yeah,
movies.
no, I think
Yeah, I'm glad the
think
guy
this
that
was
did The
the right
Stand
choice.
didn't do
Yeah,
that.
Flanagan did this really.
Yeah.
No offense to Mick Garris because he seems like a nice guy and he likes horror movies, but this is really well done.
fun fact.
Yes.
First of all, did you both, now that you've both read Dark Tower, did you catch the Dark Tower reference?
Yes.
Where?
Wait.
In
Let me
yours?
say what it
No.
was. Wait.
Yeah, in Gerald's game, he says,
Yes.
all things serve the bean.
Yes, he does say
Really?
that. Yeah. Yeah, I told
Yes,
you
he
that,
does.
Danny, and you didn't.
I
didn't
didn't
tell him that actual line.
No, I
yeah.
didn't even notice.
And the other reference is...
Danny thought he said all things serve the beans, like the food, but go ahead.
Yeah.
There's another reference which is actually in the original novel, which is it's supposed to cross over with Dolores Claiborne, the book, and there's a moment in Dolores Claiborne and in Gerald's game where they see each other during the eclipse.
Oh, that's nice.
And that's the woman she sees when she's talking about the dream in the well that she sees at the top of the well. That's Dolores Claiborne.
Oh, cool.
They couldn't hire Kathy.
Fun
What's
little
her name?
crossover stuff.
For like 5 seconds. Kathy. What the hell is her name?
But
Kathy.
Bates.
she comes in as her character from The Office
That's right.
Good lord. Gerald
with the
refers
dog.
to
She has like the big giant dogs with her.
Gerald refers to the
Classic.
dog as Cujo, which is a reference to the Stephen King book. When Gerald says all things, oh, you just said that one. The book
Right.
Midnight Mass that Jesse throws at the dog in the movie was written by Kate Siegel's character from Hush. Oh, there you go. It's a nice little reference
Oh,
to those
okay.
things.
Nice. That's a nice
So,
tie-in.
listen,
I
Stephen
would
King is-
love if she adopted the dog.
I
though, for
love
real.
tie-ins.
There's some
You want her to adopt the dog.
There's some actual, respect done to Stephen King's work, or actually, better versions of his work putting out there. So, because it seemed like Dark Tower was a very bad start.
Dark Tower was so disrespectful to the book, to the fans, to people. Who
I will
didn't
say
even
this.
know
Did you
the
hear they're
book.
still trying to make a TV series?
They're gonna it's basically a reboot now.
I
That's what they're
refuse.
saying.
Right.
I refuse.
They're gonna reboot it. Well, listen, if they got anybody who done everybody else who did Stephen King stuff this year has done it right. So whoever
If they
it was,
completely okay. Put it this way: if they make sure that all of the people involved in that horrible movie are not involved, I'll watch it.
it's a guy named Avi something, the guy who
Yeah,
wrote
he's
it.
the guy that was like basically
fucks up
saying
everything.
anybody that was upset about the million changes made was racist and just dismissed all of their complaints.
Yeah, I
The
forget
guy's an asshole. Like he doesn't even care about the books. He's just trying to make money, which is fine. But you should like try to care about the source material.
Yeah, it was that writer. I'm trying to find his name right here, but his name was Akiva Goldsmith. That's the guy. Goldsman. Him and Jeff Plinkler. They fucked it up, and I'm sure there's somebody else who did it.
Yeah, they
fucked
can't.
that up
They can't
big
be
time.
allowed within like 1,000 feet of this movie.
Apparently, the rest of Stephen King stuff, like It, was very good.
Yeah.
This film, I hear 1922 is actually decent, which is
Yeah, I
on
heard it's
Netflix
pretty
as
good.
well.
I'm also
so we
really
should
looking
check that
forward to Castle Rock.
Yeah, that also stars the guy who played Pennywise. He's playing another character in that film. But also,
really? Well, Castle Rock is the TV series.
right, and another thing that nobody knows about is a show called Mr. Mercedes that was based on the 3 books that Stephen King did.
Right.
Very awesome adaptation starring, oh God, I forgot that guy's name. But anyway, very good show that I think everybody should check because it's not typical horror, but it is serial killer versus cop sort of thing, but it's really done really well. And they had to change some aspects about it because, fucking in real life people are blowing up places and killing people with their cars.
Right.
The fact
Yeah.
that they actually kept, a guy running over people with his car in the beginning of the movie, in the beginning of the show is surprising
Well, it
enough.
kind of makes it more relevant.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
isn't
at
that the point of horror to make things that happen every
To
day
confront
scary?
those things.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
why,
and at the
Yeah.
We're such pussies. Why would they edit that? That's ridiculous.
Well, they don't want to be insensitive to the people who actually like lost their lives and the families of those people.
It's not
which is fair.
insensitive. It's saying, hey, this is really scary.
So anyway, Mr. Mercedes, it's written by David E. Kelly, so if you guys know, he's a good writer. It stars Brendan Gleeson and Harry Treadway. Very good show. You guys should check out Gerald Jerome. Anyway, but Stephen King is actually getting some decent stuff being done for him. They're going to try to remake Pet Sematary next, I believe, so they're trying to look for directors of that one.
That would be a
We'll
good
see.
one to
I
read.
wasn't
really
I
like
wasn't
the
really a
original,
fan of
but
the
I wouldn't
original
mind that.
myself.
I did like the original adaptation, but there are moments in the book that I really love that I think
Yeah, and they
could
don't
be
even.
brought.
They could get more into the Wendigo demon thing and like that kind of
Yeah.
idea a little more. That would be
Or
cool.
they
And
could
also-
just the
What,
father
sorry, go.
could have just bought a fucking cat and told the kid who's 3 years old that it's the same cat. You know?
Well,
He
then
could've
you wouldn't have a movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
literally.
You could have saved the day. What
No,
an
it's
asshole.
not about the dad. The thing is making him want to do it. It's like corrupting his mind. There's a demon in this Native American thing, and it's like making him do this.
What's the thing that the old guy says?
He says, "Dead is better."
Dead is better.
Sometimes dad was better.
And he goes, "Watch out for those trucks. They go by like
Suffering
it's
so
nobody's
much.
business."
They really, if you ever see South Park, where for no reason they parody that
they,
character,
like 4 times, right?
is the greatest thing in the world. And also, Gilbert Gottfried said that guy was fucking him in the asshole, saying that sometimes. Very good. What a way to end this episode.
Wait, we
So
need
that-
to do our rating. We didn't actually.
Yeah,
do
no
the
shit,
numbers.
really. Oh, I can't believe after
Wow.
doing about over 200 episodes, I would forget that. So, Thea, what rating would you give this movie?
I'm gonna give it 9
Whoa.
out of 10
Look at you.
because I
Big,
really
big
liked it. I really
shooter.
liked it. I'm hitting big with this one. 9 out of 10 dirty toe lickers.
Ooh, hey, don't knock it till you try it. Funny
Okay.
story. No, I won't go into it. Danny, what
Yeah.
rating would you give this movie?
I'm gonna go with another 8. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. Degloving your hand so that you can
Ooh.
escape an angry dog that's spoiled because he could have eaten Kobe beef and instead he ate your husband and then you.
Why can't it be both?
Hey,
Hey, do you-
true.
What's your rating?
I also had a very crude joke that I realized after we had seriously talked about this film that I won't do it anymore. I would give this movie a 9 out of 10.
Wow.
Wow.
We agreed twice.
A 9
today.
out of... Oh, I got to change it
And
now.
I
No,
disagreed
9 out of
twice.
10. A 9 out of 10. Having your husband die dramatically in front of you but still mocking you after death because he was a real bastard.
Mhm.
With that, Thea, what's the final word?
Tweet.
Danny, what's the final word?
Gerald!
The Horror Deconstruction.